All right, good evening, everybody. My name is Newton's Law from Clan Die, or Clan Death as is insured. Uh, I am going to demonstrate the hardcore side of this Necromancer Thorn build. It's going to be based on the Trag'Oul set, the six-piece set. And the idea behind this is going to be the exact opposite of the Trag'Oul's Corpse Lance build, where in the Corpse Lance build, you want to increase your critical hit chance as well as critical hit damage. In this Trag'Oul's Thorn build, you're going to be doing the exact opposite. You're going to get away from the critical hit chance and the critical hit damage because it does not apply to any of the Thorn damage that is going to be used in this build. So the reason behind the build is you're going to effectively pass on Thorn damage to the number of minions that you would cast. As you can see, I am starting out with 7 Skeletal Warriors, and on top of that, we're going to do the Revive skill right here, which will then revive minions to up to 10 minions, so 17 minions total. So what that means is your Thorn damage is applied to them, and you want to get all the enemies attacking those minions. And if let's say you have enemies that have cleave damage, excuse me, if you have enemies that have ground effects damage, the lasers, the caustic blast or the frozen blast ground effects, then those enemies that cast that particular skill will actually almost die instantaneously. And that's the beauty behind this build, is that you actually are not doing any damage. It is all going to be reflective damage back to the enemies that are attacking you. So let's start out with what is required for the build. First of all, you're going to need a 6-piece set, Trag'Oul set, excuse me, and in each one of these pieces, each one of these items, they should have thorns as one of the secondary stats. And for obvious reason, the higher the level, the higher the base thorn damage you can do, the more damage that your minions are going to reflect back to those target enemies. Now, so as you can see here, I have the shoulders, I have a chest piece, and I have the ring. Oh, actually, I don't have the ring in this case. Let me go ahead and switch that around to my revive. Okay, so now I have this ring that has thorn damage as well. And I'm going to explain to you about the rings in a moment. So, but obviously I'm going to need some other gear items that will have thorn damage. So that's my focus, is to increase the thorn damage on every single one of these pieces of gear. And as you can see too, the other stats, the number one stat outside of the thorns is going to be CDR, cooldown reduction. And cooldown reduction, what that's going to do is it's going to allow you to cast Blood Rush or do a cooldown reduction on Blood Rush and cast that more often, because with the Endless Walk set here, you do 50% damage reduction while moving. So every time you Blood Rush, you're going to be moving, and therefore you get 50% damage reduction. Now also with the Dainty's Bindings here, every time you cast Decrepify on the target, in this case I happen to have 50% damage reduction there. So in that sense, I am actually immune during the time that I'm moving if I have Decrepify up. So those are two really important things to have, especially in hardcore mode. So the other thing we're going to talk about are the gems. The gems required for this is going to be the Boyarsky's chip that increases base thorn damage. Then we have the Bane of the Trap. In a lot of cases, this may not be used or may not need to be used because of the fact that this damage is based on CC effects of targets. And in this Thorn build, you do not want to have any CC effects because you want to have the enemies hit your minions as often and as fast as they can, because the damage is going to be reflected back to those enemies once they hit the minions. So that's the focus there. So I may actually opt to change this out to Bane of the Powerful, which gives me a 20% increased damage after killing an elite mob. Because this is more or less a seek and destroy or search and destroy build, you're going to be probably Bane of the Powerful is probably going to be the better gem for you in this regards. And then last gem I'm going to be using is the Enforcer gem, which increases the damage of my pets by 22.8% currently. As you can see, these gems are fairly low, except for this one. This one is actually relatively, well, it's medium. Oh wow, I had to sneeze there. Sorry about that. And all right, so the and then this one's also level 25. But so right now I'm focused on the Thorns gem. And you may even want to go to even mitigate more damage by probably doing something like the esoteric gem here, if you want to do that, if you have a problem mitigating damage. This necromancer, this necromancer build is a tank. It is one of the tankiest builds you can have in the Necromancer tree. In most of the classes out there, it's probably one of the tankiest builds out there. So the other thing I'm going to use is this Jesseth Skull Scythe or Jesseth Arms set. And what that's going to do is it allows when Command Skeleton is enacted, all of the minions deal 400% increased damage, which is very important to do. And so that's a really good thing there too. I'm using Unity in this build because because it's hardcore mode. When I talk about the passive, the hardcore mode side of this thing, we're going to definitely need to have Unity to be able to keep alive a little bit more in the event that I'm actually not doing a blood rush and I don't have Decrepify up to do the 50% damage reduction. This Unity will increase damage reduction, I think, by 1.85%. So that's pretty good there. So I'm also using the Reaper's Wrap. Now in SC mode, SC style gameplay, this may or may not be used in the SC gaming play of this because there's some other passives which we will talk about in a second that is used instead. But in hardcore mode, we're going to be needing to get as much of the resources, the resources returned back to us because we're going to be constantly casting curses. As you can see down here, all my curses that are going to be cast. So we're going to be constantly casting curses for that. So I'll talk about the curses here in a second. But there you have it. That's a set there. Now the gems that are being used here, we have the cooldown gem in here. We want to try to shoot for a high cooldown, about 55% or more. I am only at 41%. That I need to get up a little bit more, but 55 is the goal. The other thing too is we also want to probably focus on intelligence gem. When I first started out this build, I wasn't very sure about it. I wasn't very confident, and I'm starting to rotate these gems out from vitality gems to the intelligence gem. And as you can see, even with the current vitality, I'm sitting at 1.1 million health. With the Tragules and Gorge, or the Blood Rush and Gorge, stacks of 100, I get up to 2.2 million, and of course if I change everything out to ancient gear, which would increase my vitality, I would also increase that even more. So I think I can even get up to 3.5 million in full ancient gear. So 3.5 million health amounts to quite a bit of toughness. Currently I'm sitting at 27 toughness, but when I get going, I will get up to 110 toughness, which is roughly about the DHs as they keep on moving around. So here we go. Ancient gear, once again, will improve upon that. So the second set of stats that you really want to improve upon are going to be vitality, as well as health. All right, so health increase, and then the other one's going to be the resistance. I have some resistance here. You want to increase the resistance to roughly about 1600, maybe a little bit more on resistance. So that's kind of the focus there. So your CDR, your vitality, and your resistance are very important stats to have. And if you also notice, in my damage here, I only have 69,000 damage. Why do I have 69,000 damage? Because of the fact that literally I am not doing any damage from my character. All my damage is coming from the Thorns damage of the minions. And you will see in the gameplay very shortly that the elite mobs will actually kill themselves before all the enemy mobs, the density mobs, will kill themselves, and that's kind of the focus that we're getting to, and that's where the seek and destroy method of play comes in. So here we have, I'm basically rolling this weapon damage out of this weapon here and focusing on cooldown reduction. Now, maximum weapon cooldown reduction is 10%. I spent 150 death breaths to even get one of these cooldowns. So obviously I couldn't get any better roll than 6%. So I'm going to continue to work on getting that to 10%. Basically, I'm going to try to roll out the max percentage of all the cooldowns of every single one of these pieces of gear. So when you're looking for gear with thorns, and you're looking for gear that will have the ability, or will either have CHC, and then you can roll that out, or crit hit damage, you can roll that out as well. And so as long as you're focusing on on CDR. The other stat that you will want to also need to have is attack speed. The attack speed comes in the form of revive. How fast can you cast that revive? In hardcore mode, you want to cast revive more often because of the fact that you don't have a specific passive. Now we'll get to that in a second. But the lifetime of the revive minions is actually quite a bit shorter, and therefore they expire faster, and therefore you will need to cast more revive in order to keep that going. In hardcore mode, keeping revive up is very, very difficult to do. That's why you need to focus on density of mobs versus not so dense, because we're going to have another piece of gear here. In the cube, we're going to use Tragul's Fang, and we're going to use the Mask of Scarlet Death. Now, this particular mask right here basically takes like 4 or 5 corpses and make one powerful revived minion. So that damage is reflected in thorns as well. So, and because of that, you need to have a high density group of mobs in order to get a lot of corpses. And the Land of the Dead is probably one you will allow you to utilize this to get a maximum of 10 revives out. So the more minions out, the more damage is reflected back towards the mob. So that's important there. Now, Crispin's Sentence, sometimes people will use this in SC mode. They actually use this because you can probably do CCs or slowing effect, but in hardcore mode you don't want to do that. You want to actually have things hit you faster, and I'm thinking of maybe changing this out to something a little bit more, maybe something to the effect of the Larnell's Sunstone, which, you know, reduces damage for all the 1% of the life missing. That may not work as well, so I may do something else. Convention of Elements, maybe, I haven't decided yet, but for the most part I'm just going to keep the Crispin's here for the time being. So there we have the set for here. I'm going to talk about my follower. My follower has the cannot die, whatever this thing is called. I forgot what this is called. Source, cannot die source. And so we also want to focus on this person's best in spot, which is going to be high crit damage, maybe fast attack speed, or faster cooldown, or whatever the case may be. I'm using the Enchantress because of the fact that the Enchantress will have this increased armor and slows melee attackers for you. I think I might switch that out. Reduce damage from range attacks for you and your... I'm going to go ahead and do that because I really don't want... No, I'm going to switch it back to this one. And then I have the Conjures, a pool of energy that deals damage and causes affected enemies to take additional damage. So that is a very good one to have. And also an aura that increases attack speed. Why I choose this one over the Templar is all about resource regeneration and health regeneration and stun. So we don't want that. We want to make sure that we want to have the mobs get hitting our minions. And then why not the Scoundrel? Because Scoundrel is based on crit hit chance and crit hit damage, which again does not apply to us. So the Enchantress is a good choice in this regards. Now, why do I not have the first 2 skills selected? The reason for that is because they're both CCs, and again, we do not want crowd controlling effects for this build at all. So if you happen to have an Enchantress that does have both skills, I would probably go ahead and recreate if you really want to be serious about pushing, I'd probably go ahead and recreate the Necromancer, delete that, move your gear all over to the new Necromancer, and then keep those 2 skills unchecked. Because once you check one, you're not going to be able to uncheck it later on. So that's my take on that. I had to actually did this. This is a brand new character for that. So Let's talk about skills. The skills comes as like so. First of all, I'm going to use Decrepify because that again applies to the Dainty's binding, and borrow time to help reduce the Land of the Dead. Revive Oblation, what that does is it increases the damage of revived creatures, but each revived now costs health. Because of that, you're going to need to use you need to choose a passive that does that will mitigate against this this health cost. And then I'm going to choose the I'll see you in a second. I'm going to do Blood Rush in the Trag'Oul's set. Blood Rush gains the effect of all wounds, so it doesn't matter which one you choose here. Command Skeleton, again, I'm using this Jesseth's Arms set, and therefore Command Skeleton is an important piece of the build there. And I'm using the Dark Mending Rune because I do want to continue to have health regenerated even if I do get a damage spike. So that's where that comes into play. And then Land of the Dead. Land of the Dead, Shallow Graves. Now, the reason why I chose Shallow Grave over Frozen Lands, some people will probably choose Frozen Lands as an escape from near death, but once again, if things are frozen, they're not doing any damage to your minions, and therefore they're not doing damage to themselves. And therefore, I went away from the Frozen Land. Instead, I used Shallow Graves. This killing enemies extends the duration of Land of the Dead. Now, we all know that Land of the Dead provides a bunch of graveyards so you can pull up a bunch of corpses as well. So there we have the excuse me, the 6 primary skills, and now we'll talk about the passive skills. In the passive skills in SC mode, the passive skills are going to be quite different. Actually, not quite different. They're going to be, instead of the final service, they're going to have extended servitude. And then really, this is actually the key signifier or the key separator of the playstyle for hardcore and the playstyle for SC. And that is this: when you use extended servitude, that means your minions will be up longer, and that means your revive, you don't have to cast revive all that much, and therefore you can switch out this frailty for cannibalize. And with cannibalize, you can also pop up more health globes. With this skill here, life from death, consuming a corpse has a 20% chance to spawn a health globe. And so this coupled with the Reaper's Wrap on my case will also increase the resource regeneration. So that's kind of important for me because I really am doing a lot of curses, and a lot of curses takes a lot of essence away. So I need to have as many health globes as possible. And then this other skill right here, Blood for Blood, is going to give me a stack. Basically, every time I pick up a health globe, I'm going to get a stack of Blood for Blood, and that prevents the next blood skill being cast from draining my life. And in hardcore mode, that is very, very important. There have been a few times there where I actually do proc initially because I have to cast my initial Land of the Dead to get my initial health globes and stacks of the Blood for Blood, but during that time my health drops and a minion or an enemy comes in and hits me once and procs my skill. So it's okay though because of the fact that typically speaking, my Dark Mending from my Command Skeleton as well as my health globe pickup brings me back up to full life very quickly before any other damage is done. So this Blood for Blood is very, very important inside of hardcore mode play. And then the number one skill that is that defines this build is going to be Aberrant Animator, and what that does is allows or gives 200% of allows your minions to gain 200% of your Thorns damage. And of course, this makes the Thorns build very important by applying all armor pieces, all items that can do Thorns should have Thorns. So that's what that is for. And of course, this will scale with all the 400% minion damage. This will scale with the helm, this helm here, and it will scale with the Trag'Oul's Fang and a few other skills that comes along as well. But so that's all there is to it. Now, in hardcore mode, we're going to get away from the extended servitude because in final services, you definitely need final services in hardcore mode because you're guaranteed to proc. And I mean, it's almost ensure that you're going to proc, and therefore you're going to need final services to allow you to at least escape the situation where you're going to die. But for the most part, I'm the type of player that even if I'm proccing, I'm going to still push on forward, and because of that, I die a lot. But then again, I also push a lot farther, faster as well. So I'm not afraid to die. But final service is important, but that takes away the extended servitude. When the extended servitude is taken away, to compensate for it, you're going to need to cast Revive a lot more often. And as you cast Revive a lot more often, you're going to need to pick up Health Load more often to keep your Blood for Blood stacks up. And therefore, all of this requires a faster cooldown of the Blood Rush to make sure that you can constantly bounce around back and forth and dropping corpses so you can cast Revive as often as you can. Plus, the Land of the Dead to bring more graves to allow you to cast more revives. So that's the whole premise behind the Thorn build there. And the playstyle is pretty much like this. You want to try to have your enemies hit your minions. So in other words, you're going to be bouncing around in a triangular triangular pattern around the mobs to group them up, to get them so they're hitting your minions. And you're constantly casting Revive, you're constantly chasing after health lobes, and then when the elite mobs comes along, they're going to be casting ground effects such as acid pools, poison, caustic blast, frozen blast, lasers, all of those things you want your minions to be standing in, because when they take damage from those lasers, so do the enemy that cast those particular ground effects, and you really want them to stand in that because that's how they kill. Now I ran a level 70 not too long ago with one of the officers of this clan, and he notices that the density of the mob stays there, but the elite and rare enemies dies, which is kind of the opposite of what you normally see in normal gameplays. For example, for DH Impale DHs, you have to fly through the mobs and kill through the mobs just to get to the elite. You can't really focus on the elite, and then you kill the majority of mobs finally to be able to kill the elite rares. And the same thing with any of the other builds. But in the case of the Thorn build, such as the Seda builds, only the elite mobs, you'll see more often the elite mobs and the rare mobs will die faster than any of the other mobs around that, because of the fact that they actually dish out more damage. So that's the point behind that. Let's see here. You want to keep on moving. You want to constantly be moving. You also want to be casting all these curses as we go along. As you can see, here's the Frailty. We can do the Decrepify, and you want to make sure that they're all casting. This current build right here, I've been told by Draxlin, he's the #1 Necromancer Thorn build player. He clears the GR at 109 with the SC side of this build, and he gave me some advice. I had a long talk with him. He gave me some advice about this, about kind of fine tuning this for the hardcore side. And he says I'm brave to do this in hardcore, but for the most part, this is a very tanky build, and we're going to see how this plays out here in just a second. I'm actually going to run as level 70. I am Paragon 850 or 860 in this case, and I have my intelligence up to 202 and my maximum essence at 50. Everything else is maxed out, so there you go. All right, here we go. Let's see if I can't actually create a couple stacks here. Oh, party guide. I'm going to try to actually go to someplace and get some stacks before I start out, because I really want to get these Blood for Blood stacks. I'm going to go in here and oh, there's some mobs there. Okay, let's do this. Okay, there we go. We're going to grab the health lobes, get the Blood for Blood stacks. There it is. And as you can see, he killed himself pretty quickly. I'm going to go ahead and grab some more health loves, get those stacked up, and now I'm ready to go and fight this elite here. Maybe that resets. I don't know. Anyway, let's go. I think it resets. That was kind of, yep, it resets. Oh well, it's a moot point. Anyway, so here we go. We're going to go ahead and cast this. We're going to do Seek and Destroy. There's nothing there. Actually, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and launch out this and cast my revives, get those guys going, get my blood stacks up. There it is. I'm already at 100 Engorge. As you can see, my 2.2 million from the Engorge, stacks are up high. My toughness is 176. That's good. So I'm looking pretty good right now. And I'm going to go ahead and continue on with the Seek and Destroy. And I'm going to send my minions there. And as you can see, I'm going to go ahead and start constantly looking for health low, constantly casting revives, and I'm going to constantly again cast the curses. So there we go. That guy's almost dead. Now the problem with this build, here's the downside of the build, and that is when you look at mobs or enemies that actually do not attack, or they attack but they attack very slow, you really want to skip those mobs because they are a waste of time. As you can see, this one's a complete waste of time for me. I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next group here. And so I want to try to keep my blood rush stacks possible. The blood rush stacks up because I want to be able to escape things quickly. Okay, here we go. Here we have something. There we go. Let's do this. And okay, so there it dies out pretty quickly. Now let's go ahead and get all these guys here. Right, we're up to 2. Now the other downside of this build is you really want a lot of space to maneuver. If you're running into a scenario where you have lasers in a narrow corridor, you kind of want to get out of that area, and unfortunately, sometimes you cannot. So let's do this. Let's click on this one. Okay, my cast with minions. Look at all those ground effects. So that's what I'm going to do is focus on my ground effects. I'm going to cast my curses. As you can see, my curses causing me to run out of essence. I'm going to just dance around here, grab all of my health buff, and get my essence back, and I'm off and running. All those mobs are still there, but the elites are dead, and that's kind of what the goal is. Let's try this one here. Let's get on this guy, and let's see what happens if we just bounce around. It's very simple gameplay here. Oh, look at that. Oh, dodge that. Oh, look at this. Okay, so this is now another one of those minions that actually cast very, very slow, and therefore you may not want to. Oh, look at that. He does hit. He swings slow, but he does hit very hard. So that was a bonus for us. Now I'm going to go move on to the next level here. I'm going to cruise up. Yeah, let's send some minions out there. As you can see, my essence is down. I want to try to get some. Let's see if I can get some health up. Now, sometimes I use. Oh, here we go. We'll use the. There we go. Get those back. Get that going. Curses up. There we go. And as you can, oh, here's another one. This is going to be Caustic Blast, and it's going to. I didn't have any minions in there to really affect that. Take advantage of that. So here, let's try this. Okay, so there's some minions there. As you can see, they're starting to take damage. Now, here's one of those type of groups that actually doesn't take a whole lot of damage because they don't actually do anything. Oh, good. Here we go. Here we have another one. Now, another cool thing about this build is this. If you see this shielded mob right there, if the elite mob is actually shielded, what's going to happen is the elite mob will damage themselves inside that shield. When they do attack, they damage themselves. So therefore, the shield does not protect them. So you can literally, shielded mobs don't do anything for them as far as protection goes. Okay, so I'm going to cruise along. Oh, here we go. I have my favorite skill here. So I'm going to go cast some things. Oh, we have another elite mob here. Let's do that. Caustic Blast. There we go. Oh, let's go move to this side. Look at that. Look at what we. I mean, she died instantly. Let's get out of that. And let's get out away from these guys here. All right, let's go down this lane here. Let's cast some more. Here's some more here. All right, and I'm going to be bouncing around. Here's an elite mob that's going to try to shield himself. He's going, as you can see, he's actually still taking damage from this. And this is one of those type of things where one of those type of mobs that you really doesn't really. They don't actually attack, so it'll be rare that they do any sort of damage. Okay, so here we're going to increase the damage there. Let's go run this way. I do talk a lot, I know. Again, I've got to pay attention to my blood rush and my stacks here. So my stacks are actually kind of low. Let's move on. Okay, here we go. Let's do this and cast Land of the Dead and get my stacks back up and cast all that. Get my skeletons out on that guy, and here we go. Look at all those health globes. Here's another mob that actually doesn't like to attack. It's actually a damage reflector. So as you can see, he's not doing any damage. He's not doing any attacks. So that means we're going to go ahead and skip him. Let's go skip them. Let's go this direction here. Oh, that's a dead end. Let's see here. Nope, that's another dead end. Yeah, you're not doing anything. You're not helping me out. So let's move on to another dead end. Gee, what is going on with dead ends? Okay, let's move this way. Boom. Yes, here we go. No, no more. Okay, here we go. Okay, I am definitely out of essence, so I'm going to try to build. Ah, there's a health glove there. Again, I'm not keeping up on my health glove, and it almost caused problems for me. This guy right here should die real quickly because he's one of those type of mobs that actually does some damage. All those acid effects are going to do damage to all the other mobs. There we have it. Okay, so let's get him there. Let's see what happens when we do this. Is he another one of those? He's just casting crap on me. Yep, I guess so. So let's see if we can't get some mobs on here. Nope, I'm not going to play around with him. So this is kind of the downside to this build is that if you don't have a mob that does high damage to you, then you generally want to skip them. Here's one that actually will do a lot of damage to you, and it will literally kill himself once he. Watch this. Okay, look at that. As soon as the minions get on him, and he's dead instantly. Very, very fast. This guy definitely does not want to die because he's not doing enough damage. The ground effects is not doing enough damage, so we're going to go ahead and move on past him. Let's see here. Again, I got to be careful with my blood rush. Oh, good. Get out of this level. That's a very dangerous level. Very narrow corridors. Okay, here we go. We have this guy's here, and I'm just going to go ahead and look at that fast damage. This is the premise behind this build: is you want to have fast damage. You don't want to slow anybody down. You want to have mobs that do a lot of damage faster to your guys here. So let's do this, and curses all around. And let's see, are these guys dying? These guys are one of those slow damage. Luck of the draw, obviously. Okay, so this, oh good, that one was medium damage, kind of slow in its delivery. We're almost done anyway, so this is a slow rip because we skipped a lot of the elite mobs that did not do any damage. So okay, here we go. These guys like to do damage. Weird kind of damage though. Let's see here. Let's do that. Okay, there we go. And oh, #1 damage dealer here. Look at that. I just had to stand in that one, and just one bit of damage did that to him. So there we go. He reflected all that back to him. So I'm going to go ahead and build this up like so. And I probably should build the other one up. I think right about now I'm going to start looking at the Caldisan's gems. So there you have it, guys. I will be posting more videos with regards to how do you say it, better performing plays. You know, when my gear gets a little bit better, when I hit my goal of my Thorn levels, but that's what it is. It boils down to the bouncing around all over the place, collecting globes, making sure you get no CCs done. The elite mobs and rare mobs need to be fast attacking, high damaging mobs. They die instantly. You keep moving around, making sure that you don't get any damage done to you, and that's all it boils down to is that. So if you follow this build, you can modify it a little bit, tweak it a little bit here and there, but the bottom line is high Thorns damage, low CHC, low CHD, high CDR, medium attack speed, and high vitality, high resistance, and you'll be good. So have a good night. That's it. Look forward to the next video.